and welcome to the Fumble. I'm Britt Johnson. Follow me on social media at I am Britt Johnson and click subscribe to the Fumble if you haven't already. Mama said knock you out. There isn't anything hotter than a girl who can also whip some booty. The UFC gained even more popularity when fighters like Ronda Rousey and Miesha Tate entered the octagon and proved that they were more than just a pretty face. Since their success in the octagon, tons of female fighters have taken to the sport of MMA fighting to show what they've got. I personally don't think what these women look like should matter when it comes to their ability to whip some butt, but even so, it's time for us to break down some of the hottest female MMA fighters who literally will beat that ass. It's time to take a look at some new and veteran faces across the world of MMA. Let's start with the Wonder Woman herself, Rachel Ostovich. Rachel Ostovich made national news when her husband, who is also an MMA fighter, assaulted her back in November, breaking her orbital bone. During the assault, her husband Arnold repeatedly yelled, "I'm going to murder you. I'm going to effing murder you." Rachel was scheduled to fight Paige Van Zant on January 19th, but after the November attack, most thought she would throw in the towel while she healed. No, not this superstar. She decided to still fight. Ostovich lost the fight by submission via armbar in the second round, but of course, guys, she is still a winner in my eyes. This 27-year-old Hawaiian-born MMA fighter has a bright future ahead of her and I believe will become a household name. Next, we have my favorite Canadian fighter, Melissa Sophia, who currently fights with King of the Cage in the atom weight division and is a major babe. Her MMA career hasn't really taken off yet, but with looks like these, her brand will take her all the way. Her Instagram only has about 4,500 followers, but is full of workout pictures and videos to motivate anyone to get their butts in the gym. Our next chick will literally beat your ass, and she has the pics to prove it. Recently, a man thought it was a good idea to try to rob UFC fighter Pollyanna Vienna, and well, this was the outcome. UFC President Dana White posted this picture, tweeting, "On the left is Pollyanna Vienna, one of our UFC fighters, and on the right is the guy who tried to rob her. Hashtag bad effing idea." Pollyanna spoke about the altercation after saying this. "He was really close to me, so I thought if it's a gun, he wouldn't have time to draw it. So I stood up, I threw 2 punches and a kick, he fell, and then I caught him in a rear naked choke. Then I set him down in the same place we were before and said, 'Now we'll wait for the police.'" Word to the wise, don't let the pretty face fool you. Be careful who you try to rob. Valerie Larita is our next MMA babe who currently fights as a Belter flyweight. The bombshell has 66K followers on Instagram. If you're trying to slide into her DMs, I'm going to save you the trouble now because her whole entire focus right now is her MMA career and that's it. After her latest victory, she said this: "This to me is my life. This to me is my legacy. I don't care about anything else. This is what I'm leaving behind, and this is the way I'm going to honor myself and my martial art for the rest of my life." Our next lady has made the move over to pro wrestling after losing her last 2 fights. Ronda Rousey. The former champion took a huge leap from glory after losing back-to-back battles in the octagon. This hit her ego hard, and Rousey has since decided to take her talents to the WWE, where she has become a current Raw Women's Champion during her first reign. Don't let her fall from grace in the UFC make you forget who she was at the height of her career. Ronda Rousey actually became the first woman to be inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. Prior to her 2 losses, she had an undefeated streak that lasted 2.5 years, holding the record as the longest ever reigning UFC Women's Bantamweight champion. For some, it's not about how you handle winning, but how you handle losing, and well, she didn't handle it too well. After her first loss to Holm at UFC 193, Ronda took a break from the sport before taking on Amanda Nunes at UFC 207 a little over a year later. During UFC 207, Ronda lost via TKO just 48 seconds into the first round. On January 28, 2018, Ronda made a surprise appearance at Royal Rumble. Immediately following, ESPN confirmed that Ronda had signed a full-time contract with the organization. And it looks like she's gotten her mojo back and can still whip some tail. Let's move on to the girl that dethroned Ronda Rousey, UFC fighter Holm. Prior to her fight against Rousey, Holm was an undefeated fighter herself, but didn't hold the same status as her opponent Ronda. Her win against Ronda Rousey was named the biggest upset in combat fighting history. After her big win over Ronda Rousey, Holm fell into a rut, losing her next 3 fights before winning again 2 years later by her famous kick to the head. The recently divorced fighter, hey fellas, yeah, she's single, began kickboxing when she was 16 years old. She grew up a Christian and has also gone by the name Preacher's Daughter. Holly was expected to come back to the bantamweight class for UFC 235. However, a week ago, Dana White announced Holly's fight was off. Some have speculated the fight was called off because the UFC wants Holm and Amanda Nunes to fight soon for the belt. A newer face is Bruna Vargas, who currently fights with Bellator. She has about 13K followers on Instagram and is a certified babe. But problem with Bruna is she has yet to win a fight as a Bellator fighter. If she doesn't win something soon, her career in the octagon could be over before it even begins. Next, we have the lady with the best nickname on the list, the karate hottie herself, Miesha Waterson. Miesha is literally fighting her way to the top of the UFC with an overall record of 14-6. She is one of the UFC's new fan favorites and has appeared on shows like American Ninja Warrior, Bully Beatdown, and she's even won cameos in music videos and graced the pages of calendars. It's easy to see why they call her the karate hottie. Hope you guys are still watching because we have more super hotties coming to you. The next hottie on our list is from Chi-Town. Pearl Gonzalez is mixed with Mexican, Puerto Rican, Filipino, Irish, and African American, and well, she's just drop dead gorgeous. Pearl fights in the strawweight division and has a record in the MMA of 13-4. On April 8th, 2017, she made her promotional debut in the UFC at UFC 210. She lost both of her fights in the UFC and after that has since been released, but recently joined Invicta Fighting Championship, winning her debut fight March 24th, 2018. I mentioned our next MMA fighter a little earlier when she beat Rachel Ostrich back in January by submission at UFC Fight Night. This was Paige's first fight back since her loss at UFC Fight Night almost exactly a year prior, and her first win since 2016. Her MMA career hasn't been the greatest, but her out of the octagon career is definitely on the rise. Paige is modeled for Columbia Sportswear as well as Nike. Her TV credits are growing too. Back in 2016, it was announced she would be a celebrity competing on Dancing with the Stars Season 22, partnered with Mark Ballas. A year later, she took part in another reality competition show as one of the 16 celebrities competing in the cooking competition show Chopped. Not only did she participate in the Chopped show, but was named the winner. The MMA fighter hasn't stopped there either. In 2018, she released her biography, Rise, Surviving the Fight of My Life, which details her rise to fame and battles in the UFC. After her win against Ostrich last month, it looks like her UFC career is back on track. We may need to pump the brakes though on Paige VanZant just a little bit. She may be getting on the right track with her career back in the UFC, but I wouldn't be too sure naming her the future queen just yet. She may have some competition. A year ago, a new UFC fighter made her promotional debut at UFC 222 on March 3rd, 2018. Mackenzie Dern is her name, and she is taking the MMA world by storm. She has been training since she was 3 years old. Fighting literally runs in this girl's blood. Her father is Willington Megaton Diaz, who is a MMA fighter. Growing up, Mackenzie practiced with her father and her stepmother, who is also a black belt. At 14 years old, she began training in adult divisions and won a world championship in every belt level all the way up to the black belt. This badass is only 25 years old and is currently undefeated in MMA with a record of 7-0, 2 of those as a member of the UFC. Remember Mackenzie's name because she is well on her way to becoming the new face of the UFC. And what a good looking face she has. has. One face we will miss in the UFC is Miesha Tate, who retired in 2016 after her fight against Raquel Pennington at UFC 205, saying this: "I love you all so much. I've been doing this for over a decade. Thank you so much for being here. I love this sport forever, but it's not my time anymore." Since her retirement, Tate has given birth to a daughter with fellow MMA fighter Johnny Nunes, and recently it was announced that Tate joined One Championship as the new vice president. So that's gonna do it for my list of the hottest female MMA fighters. Did I forget one of your favorites? If so, shout her out in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, click subscribe, and shop the Fumble store for the latest game day gear. I'm your host, Britt Johnson for the Fumble, and I'll see you soon.